All right, welcome in, guys. Brandon Pierce doing another Contender Series show. Man, you're becoming a usual suspect around these parts now.
Yeah, man, it's a little bit of love and hate I've seen in the comments, but mostly love from you guys, and I'm glad to get the platform. Always enjoy talking fights.
Why are people giving the Big Bird some hate?
I don't know, maybe it's a mix of constantly betting on these Cage Warriors guys, but luckily, we got a break from that for a little bit.
Yeah,
But
man, you
yeah,
got to let it go. You got to let it go. You can't live and die with one person. You can't latch onto them. This is gambling. You can't fall in love with them. You take them for what they are at the time.
hey, my man Morgan Charrier got it done last week, so
Yeah, but
Cage
he had a
Warriors got a
fish, and
little
then you had to
hope.
look at the other matchups, and those guys weren't fish.
Yeah, that's true. I still think Loughran's gonna have a great UFC career, but dang, that's like one of the hardest debuts I've seen any guy get in the UFC in a while.
Yeah,
But
Taylor Lapilus is really good, and that's why I think we were talking about that. If Kalen had his first opponent, I think he would have done well. Probably would have won the fight. But Taylor has such amazing skills. That was a tough debut, and that's why I was telling you don't live and die with this one. I said that's my favorite spot on the card, and I know you're like, whoa, it was a close fight, and it was. But I mean, he was reasonably priced, and he just got better skills. I mean, he just really is that good, and so I was pretty confident he was going to win, especially in France. You know what I mean?
yeah, I guess just because the French went like 8-1 or something like that. So when you get
With their
these,
only one being the fish that lost.
exactly. So maybe just keep betting the countryman every time the UFC goes somewhere. But yeah, lesson learned: never bet a white and never bet a white Cage Warriors fighter.
That's a double whammy, man. You should have known better. All
All
right, well,
right,
let's
well,
get
let's get
into
into this.
this week. We have Contender Series. Is this week 5?
Yep, week 5, halfway through the season.
We're halfway done, man. Time's flying by. All right, I did a brief overview of this card. I didn't go too in depth with it. I think I have an idea of kind of who I like. Honestly, it took me about one fight per person to kind of see who I liked and who I didn't like. So we're gonna kick this one off with Dione Barboza versus Rain Guerrero. Go ahead. Do you have anything on this one?
Yeah, so I did a deep dive on most of these fights. This is probably the one where I didn't go as in depth. I did the proper tape on Barboza, but I didn't get enough time to look into Guerrero. But we got Diane Barboza. She's a LFA fighter. She's filling in on short notice. Rain Guerrero was supposed to fight this Canadian girl, but now we got Diane Barboza on short notice, and I think this is a tougher matchup for Guerrero. I mean, when you look at Diane Barboza, she actually has fought a lot of good women's fighters on the regional scene. She beat Karine Silva 4 years ago,
But that was
which is
pre-steroids.
yeah, probably some of that too. And she fought Josiah Nunez. She lost that fight in a fight that she was winning, and then I guess Josiah Nunez just did her classic, just ape a finish. Got finished there, unfortunately, and then she lost to Jenna Bishop after that fight. And I mean, Jenna Bishop and Josiane Nunez. I mean, those aren't the worst losses to have. And when I mean, I guess looking at this matchup, it's probably going to be Barboza is going to look for the clinch and the takedowns. I think Barboza has a grappling edge, but I need to go more in depth on Guerrero, how she looks on bottom. Because I will say, in her last fight for Fury, her opponent wasn't good, but Guerrero seems pretty scrappy. So if it stays on the feet, I would maybe worry in that minus 275 price tag on Barboza, but maybe keep an eye for Barboza by submission. She only has 2 on her record, but if she can get Guerrero down, the submission's probably going to look really live. And yep, it's minus 275, so the books are telling you who they think's going to win.
Oh yeah, I don't think this fight's really that close at all. Like looking at Rain Guerrero, she's a Claire Guthrie, but probably not as good. Claire like looks worse on the feet and kind of like looks worse everywhere, but like is weirdly way more effective. She actually gets girls down and kind of does her thing. Rain Guerrero just cage pushes lean. She has no real semblance of wrestling. And then you're going to go against a girl in Diane Barbosa who's so physical. Like look at her. She is an athlete, so physically strong. You know, they always bring up how she trains with Cyborg. She's got judo skills. Like Diana Barbosa is good. And the only thing that's actually upsetting in this matchup for me personally is that we're not going to get to keep using her as a parlay piece in LFA. I mean, that was the gravy train. Like they love her. She's the LA girl, so they always give her favorable matchups and price her pretty reasonably. And now she's going to be on to bigger and better things. But honestly, the UFC is where she belonged the whole time. The fact that she has to fill in for somebody to get on Contender Series is dumb to me because she's probably one of the more talented girls, physically strong girls. She beat Karine Silva, and I was going to say that's a good comp to her just in physicality wise. So honestly, I kind of like this spot a lot. Rain doesn't do very much, and with judging and criteria, and I mean, we even saw it this weekend. Like you can grapple for 15 minutes successfully and still lose a decision. You know, robbery or not, you can still lose one. So I like Dione Barboza to have the big moments, the judo. Honestly, I think she's just better everywhere.
Yep, seems pretty easy there.
All right, next up we have Gene Silva versus Kevin Vallejos. Now I'm going to kick this one off because I know where you're at with this one. And man, you know what? Actually, why don't you go ahead? Go first on this one.
Yeah, so I know you're probably not as big of a fan for Gene Silva. I mean, I'm not really that high on him either. I got in on his early prices yesterday at plus 220. He's down to plus 150 right now, minus 180 buyback on Vallejos. And I'm starting to feel like that's more of an accurate line, so maybe don't force a bet on Silva. But I guess my take on Vallejos is he comes off as a very scrappy fighter, but at the end of the day, the reason I bet against him is that he's 21 years old and he's fighting on the Samurai Fight House, which we've talked about Luciano Pereira, who was supposed to fight earlier this season. It's Samurai Fight House, it's not the best regional promotion, but I guess with Vallejos, he probably does have the best win between the two in his last fight, which is Eduardo Gregori. He got the second round finish there, but I mean that was a competitive fight. Gregori was doing a good job landing some good strikes on Vallejos. But my issue with Vallejos is he, for as good of a scrappy striker he is, he kind of leaves a high guard. He seems very hittable, but he's fighting guys that are kind of flaky or people that he can just break down the stretch. So, I mean, Silva, he's not the most talented dude. I know you're going to probably talk about how reckless he is. He does throw his strikes from the hips, and I feel like in this matchup, Silva might gas himself out going for the finish early, but I got plus 220, and I just feel like Silva, he's got a good camp. I think he's actually at the same camp that Prates last week was at, Fighting Nerds. That's where he's been training at right now, so I don't know. I just feel like it's a close fight where the 21-year-old guy is being priced like he's got a squash match, where Silva, I think he's athletic enough to keep the fight standing. We might see Vallejos go for takedowns. He kind of does do that in a lot of his fights. But I don't know. I think Silva could find the finish early, but if it gets extended, it could get a little bit greasy. But maybe live bet Vallejos if you're tempted to play him, because I feel like Silva's athleticism is going to give Vallejos problems early. But current odds, I'm just going to pass. So I wouldn't force a Silva bet, but under. I really like the under in this spot. I think both dudes are going to go for the finish early and often.
As the under 2.5.
We don't have over under yet, but I would assume we're going to get 1.5, which is going to be a tad annoying, but I still think.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good bet. 1.5 in this fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Vallejos seems durable.
Well, I don't think that's dependent on Vallejos. I think they both are durable, and if Vallejos is timid early, I think that thing's going to go over 1.5, but probably below 2.5. I think you're going to middle between those two. But just looking at his matchup, I couldn't disagree with you anymore if I had to. I mean, this guy Silva is horrible. Like, I know one of the links that we have, so on like the tape index, which by the way, can we fucking like, I don't know how to use Lock of the Nights shit. Do you just type in the name every time on the Patreon and that's how you find all the stuff?
Yeah, it's
that
literally
seems a tad bit annoying to me. I don't want to like search them up.
Okay, but did you tape Silva just off the tape index? Because the Lock of the Night, he had like 7 or 8 fights on that, and I watched all of those. Okay,
so I'll go back and watch those. But there's one new one, and then there's one really old one. And I had to watch them, and then I had to go back on Tapology and look at the dates of them, and it's like 6 years apart on those. And I couldn't tell that it was 6 years apart because he's the exact same fighter. Nothing really changed. He honestly didn't sharpen his skills at all. He's the same guy. Look at the way that he throws switch kicks. It's like a soccer mom throwing switch kicks. And then the way that he throws punches is just like a street fighter that's just trying to knock your head off. He's a slightly athletic street fighter. And I hate his style. There's no setup. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. There's no process. There's no game plan. He's got nothing with this. And you're talking about Prates. Okay, Prates last week looked amazing, right? But you look at him, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's had a million Muay Thai fights. you can watch his early film and he looks clean and he looks good. Even when he got taken down off of his back, he was really crafty and he had a lot of stuff to like and a lot of fights. This guy is horrible. This guy is horrible. And, we've seen this with the UFC bringing in these Argentinian guys and these really young South American guys, and they're actually getting wins in the UFC, right? Like the dude that came from Goat Shed or fought for Goat Shed and knocked out
Francisco
Prado, yeah. So this kid actually looks even cleaner, or reminds me a lot of him, right? He keeps a high guard, but everything is pinpoint, it's precise. He's got really fast hands. The thing that I really, really like about him is when he wrestles, he doesn't just shoot a straight shot. And this is something really unique. You don't see this very much in MMA these days, and it needs to be done more. So he shoots and immediately cuts the angle and goes to the outside. So the second someone defends with a sprawl, he's gone and around you, and that's how he gets people's back. He looks to have really good awareness, really good cardio, really good hands. The kid is precise. He's sharp. He throws good leg kicks. Like at this price, what is he, minus 205, somewhere there?
minus 180 right now.
God damn. I mean, you're getting the way better fighter for a pretty decent price. Like, I don't know how you don't go Vallejos. His hands are cleaner. Just everything he does is better to me. I think they're teeing up the young kid, the young South American, to get a W here.
I guess I will say, man, I don't know. I just hate how like hittable he is, and it's like you talk a lot of shit about Silva. I do like his clinch work, man. I think he's pretty nasty in the clinch. He's got good elbows, good knees. So it's like if Vallejos is keeping that high guard, I could definitely see Silva getting off on some knees out the middle. But I forgot to mention, I do think the grappling path for Vallejos is probably the one he should use. So if they hang a high number on his submission, maybe do that. But I mean, both these guys like to jump guillotine, so it's like I could see Vallejos going for a guillotine.
He didn't jump guillotine. No, he didn't jump guillotine. He did it.
No, I've seen he's done it a bunch in his past. I watch way too many fights on Vallejos, but I mean, I got an early number on Silva, and I think that's a good bet in my opinion. I wouldn't necessarily bet him at plus 150, but I think it's a volatile fight, man. The kid's 21 years old. I wouldn't say he's gonna fight the smartest game plan. I just think he's gonna come out and scrap.
He just looks better to me, man. He's just the better fighter. And being 21, like what the fuck happens between age of like 21 and like 24 where your cardio just goes out the window? Up from like birth until 21, you have unlimited cardio for no reason at all. And then it goes away for some reason. It's crazy. He is young, and I usually hate betting on really young fighters, but these new crop of guys have been really surprisingly pretty good for their age. Man, I can't get behind Silva. He fucking sucks. He's horrible. So, yeah, I'm going Vallejos here.
Well, nice to have a little disagreement on this fight, but seems like you're a lot more confident than me.
Yeah, if we keep splitting these, nobody can say, these guys suck. Pick the opposite, because we're going to keep them guessing, fucking idiots. All right, next up we have Chad Hanekom versus Dylan Budka. I'll go first on this one. I think our read's going to be a little bit the same on this. Originally watching it, like I told you, I was kind of skimming over these, and I'm like, okay, Hanekom, first of all, the NJ Lee fight, he knocked that dude in the next dimension. I actually remember watching that live, like, what the fuck just happened? That was crazy. Nobody expected that. He was brought in to lose that fight. His other fights, he's really big and athletic looking, but he's very slow. Like, he holds his arms super wide and then punches, like, they're straight punches, but they come from like a wide angle. So it's really bizarre and just very, very slow. And then I can't remember what fight it was, but he grappled heavy for a round and a half. And then you see him on his stool like, fuck, we got 5 more minutes of this. And then just got his ass beat for the rest of the time. I've never been high on Budka, and it's bitten me in the ass every single time. He should have won that Bakoyev fight. I had a lot of bets on Bakoyev, like, nah, fuck Budka. He's not legit. He's not what we say he is. But the dude impressed me. The dude is game as fuck. And surprisingly, for as muscular and big as he is, he throws a lot of volume, right? A really nice switch kick. He's got good punches over the top. He's not afraid to grind his dick into the dirt. He'll push you on the cage. Honestly, I think he could have an offensive wrestling game plan here, and that would work for him, right? We talked about that last week. What's the best way to beat somebody like that is you offensively wrestle, right? I like Budka here. Not by a mile. I think Hanekom is pretty decently athletic. Like, he's a big guy, athletic. He probably wins round one. But Budka's a grinder, man. So I'm gonna go Dylan Budka on this spot. What say
Dude,
you?
remember when you gave me so much shit for betting Dylan Budka against Bokayev? You're like, there's no way he wins this fight.
I
Still
told
lost the
you. I
bet.
told you. What did I just say at the beginning of the episode? I was like, you can't like be emotional with these people. But for some reason, like Budka, I'm just like, no. He's and Saint Denis, dude. For whatever reason, I'm like, no, fuck this guy. We're gonna figure it out eventually. He's not legit. The dude just looked amazing last time. So at a certain point, I just have to go. All right, I give it up. Like, fine, they're good.
Yeah, that's the worst. Someone you keep fading just keeps fucking up the bankroll. But I mean, in this matchup, I got some early lines on Budka. I got the he opened plus 190. I tried to hit it and it moved very quickly, which is unfortunate. But I got plus 115 and minus 120. He's probably my biggest possession on the whole card. And I mean, after tape, I'm not as confident as I was expecting to come out of the tape. My issue with Budka is I think he's definitely the rightful favorite. He's at minus 135 right now, plus 105 the comeback on Hanekom. I think that tends to be a little bit accurate. Maybe there's a bit of value on Budka, but my issue with Budka is that he can settle on bottom. But this is him like 2022 in his first pro fight. He's had 8 pro fights, all 8 of his pro fights in the past, I believe, 18 months, 20 months, something like that. And you can really see from fight 1 to fight 8 or 7, well, since that was the Bokaya fight, he is definitely making a lot of improvements. And I've listened to a couple of his interviews. The dude literally comes off as like a workhorse. He's constantly in the gym 24/7. So I know it is short notice for Budka. He actually took a heavyweight regional fight legit like 8 days ago, if I'm correct. So he's going to be ready. I just think in this matchup, Hanekom, he might have success early. He's a pretty fucking big guy. He does look like he's on some steroids now. 6'4" compared to Budka 6 foot. So maybe Budka struggles early with the physicality of Hanekom. But my issue with Hanekom is you mentioned it. I don't know necessarily what his cardio is like when he gets pushed. We saw in the Daniel Pereira fight, which was like 4 years ago, but he got some takedowns early, but Pereira kept working up. And as the fight got extended, Hanekom just seemed to really slow down, and he got very. I guess he seems like he doesn't like to be hit on the feet if he's not getting his takedowns, and it seemed like he wilted in that fight. But I don't know. It's just hard to get a read on where Hanekom's at this stage in his career, because his last win against the NJ Law guy is 11-1-1 on record. His opponent, but that dude was 35 years old. But he did get a sick knockout, and the fight before that was against this Janor guy who was 5-4. And then before that, Dominic Schober 11-9. So it's like, yeah, he's looking solid against these guys, but these are like the same level of competition that Budka's facing in B2 fighting series and LFA. So
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people will probably point to this. I think it was like 5.5 years ago. He fought Ikram Aliskerov. It was a really close fight for Hanekom. They had it as a split decision. I thought he lost, but it was very competitive. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to point to that when saying that maybe Hanekom can win this fight. But I mean, that's 5.5 years ago, man. The guy's 33 years old. It's not like he's a young kid in the game. Budka's 23. He's going to have a 10-year age difference, which is fascinating in this matchup. But I don't know. It's weird that they brought Hanekom onto the Contender series, because the guy he was supposed to fight, Cam Rustin, he wasn't even good either. So it's like, I don't know what they're doing
Who was
here
the A
with.
side?
I couldn't even tell you. I think it was Ralston because he's a city kickboxing guy, but that was such a horrible fight. But now we got Dylan Budka. But it's a close fight. Like you
Well,
said,
I wanted to mention something about Aliskerov.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is not as good as people think that he is either. He is not as good as people think that he is, and I don't know why they do. He's got a very low volume, wrestle heavy style. So when you go to a split decision with him, I think that tell me if I'm wrong. It was a lot of grappling, a little bit of cage pushing here and there. One guy flipping positions. Is that about right?
Yeah, it was a lot of clinching and shit. But
Yeah, so he's just not accepting. So it's not like, he's going split decision with Mike Davis and it's just beautiful boxing and they're going, drawing the line in the sand, towing the line. That's like, it's like a lot of grappling. And at any given day, as long as you're not settling on your back, that can happen with Askarov. The more that I think about it, guys, like freaking Nasruddin Imavov, isn't that who's fighting Askarov?
yeah, that's who he's.
Jesus
like
Christ. Yeah, take all of the money you have for your kids' college fund, load it in a backpack, take it to Las Vegas and say, I'll take my man Imavov. Like, what the fuck's Alexarov gonna do? Fucking blows. All right. Anyways,
Yeah, we
um,
talked a lot. I talked a lot for that fight just to say I do love Budka, so I'm going to side with him here. But if they give an over 1.5, I think that's a great look for this fight. But Budka live bet optimally is the best way to attack it.
you're pushing for a 1.5. Come on.
Really? I think there's going to be a lot of clinching. I think it could be a very boring fight between
No,
the
no, no, no.
two.
What I mean is you're dreaming
Uh,
that they're gonna give you 1.5.
yeah, they'll
That's
make
gonna
it
be a
2.5.
2.5.
But even 2.5, I don't think it's bad if it's plus money.
No, I don't either. I think it's honestly going to decision or Budka. Maybe a round 3 finish would be super nice too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we have. Let's see.
Oh, this is a great fight right
Suri
here.
Saidi versus Ramon Tavares. I'll go on this one because this one I think is the most competitive fight of the entire night. Both of these guys are really phenomenal, and it's hard for me to figure out who's the A side on this one also because usually I would say it's Saidi, right? Because he's in the BFL and he's their
It's
champion. And what's that?
it's Surrey City. That's how you say it.
City.
Yeah, like city.
Dumbass Canadians doing dumb shit. Anyways, yeah, City, whatever the fuck. Whatever, man. The Canadian, he's their champion, right? It's on Fight Pass. Like, you think he's the A side. He's really tall. He's got high volume. He does a lot of things really well. He's he's like my dream body. I would love to have a body like that for MMA, just like tall and skinny.
Dude,
And
5'11", 73-inch reach bantamweight. That frame's fucking ridiculous.
I used to train with a guy who's got that exact same build. And he would always pretend that he could make 25. He's like, oh, I'm a 25. I'm like, you're not a fucking 25er. He tried to make 35 one time and he couldn't do it. Like, he came out to Arizona to fight and then never actually ended up fighting. But tough build to deal with, man. That jab is crazy. The arms are so long. And then you have a guy like Tavares whose boxing is super fucking clean. The guy's got great hands. Now, I saw some chatter in the Discord, and they're like, well, if it stays on the feet, City, he's screwed. And I don't actually think that he's screwed. No, because the thing is that it's really easy to have good, clean boxing on the outside when nothing is coming back at you. But City fills the space so well. And he's got, who would I compare it to? Maybe like a Dustin Jacoby kind of thing where he's just constantly filling the space with jabs, high, low kicks, backing you up. He's constant energy, defensive wrestling. He doesn't really let you breathe. Where Tavares is a lot of times he has to sit back and picks his shots and it's one-offs. So I think you're picking on this, the big moments and the big shots of Tavares versus a complete 15 minutes from City. And geez, just the way that it's been lately, like I don't know if Tavares can do that for 15 minutes. So if he doesn't get around 1 or 2 knockout, like I give this to City, I think he takes over. He's got a swag about him, man. He really does have confidence. He's willing to get in your face, and he knows like his pulls are good, his switch stances are good. A lot of the stuff he does is really, really solid. I would have loved to play Tavares at plus money here. I don't honestly, it's good value. I think it should be a fairly competitive fight, but I'm going to go just, if we're going winners, no value, I think City's winning.
Yeah, man, it's amazing matchmaking. I think this is going to be a hell of a fight, but I kind of agree with like the similar statements that you mentioned. It's a close fight. I'm really tempted to play Tavares, but I have a feeling it's going to be a value loser at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the tail of the tape for this matchup. I mean, I wish I could find some metrics on Tavares' height and reach. I can't, but I can assume that City's going to have a massive reach, probably like 5 or 6 inches on Tavares. But the thing with Tavares is that his boxing, dude, it's clean. I like how he goes body head and he really mixes up his combinations well. So maybe Tavares can put the pressure on City early. And I guess my one question with this fight is, because I've watched a lot of City fights, will he grapple offensively in this matchup? And I really don't know. He's gotten off on some control time in his recent fights, but that's not really from him shooting a double leg or going for offensive takedowns. It's like him dropping his opponent and falling them to the ground. And I mean, it was a couple years ago, but we did see Tavares kind of get stuck on his back a little bit. I think it was like his first or second pro fight. It was against the Dujor guy, but he did end up winning the fight. But If it stays standing, it's going to be a close fight. It's going to come down to who's pressuring. Because I think if Tavares is on the front foot, he's probably going to be landing a lot of shots on City. City does. I think he's there to be hit defensively. I wouldn't say City's striking defense is the best, but I think the range might give Tavares problems. But it's really a tough fight to get a read on because you got two high
Well, let's
level
see.
strikers.
This fight, the James Dunn fight, so his most recent fight, James
Hmm.
Dunn is 5-5, and honestly, pretty fucking horrible.
Of
And
course.
James Dunn was taking a beating, but still walking down Tavares, right? He was backing him up, and that's the problem that I see is Dunn didn't throw anything out there. He didn't throw any punches, nothing in the way of Tavares, and Tavares was still getting backed up. Occasionally, he would go forward right when he's landing his punches or when he was hurting the guy, but the rest of the time, Dunn was pressing forward, and Tavares is on his back foot. So now you have a guy that's actually talented, that actually has a good record, that actually throws punches in City, who's not afraid to get hit. And yes, he does get hit, but he sees everything. He sees all the punches that hit him. It's not like he's ever getting blindsided. The more that I keep talking, the more I'm like talking myself into like a City play, like a decent City play, because that backing on the back foot against a guy that he was murdering, who's 5-6 now. Like, yeah, I like City here.
I will say City's with our boy Deshaun, so you know they're going to put together a good game plan.
Yeah, legendary Jaden Diet. He's a legend, man. He's one of the best fighters I've ever seen. So we need MMA Wizard to do a write up on him. All right. Does that take us to the main event?
Yes, sir. This is going to be an easy one to talk about.
Yeah, short and sweet. I only watched one fight of each. Why don't you go ahead and I'll just confirm what you say?
Yeah, so I'm going with Brenson Riberio by submission. But Bruno Lopez is being brought in to smash Riberio. It's pretty obvious. Riberio in a lot of his fights, he's scrappy. I'll give him that. He's like willing to throw down, but it's like his chin is just not there. I've seen him knocked out multiple times on the regional scene, and even his last fight before the one he won in the second round, I believe, to get into this, he was in some bad positions in that fight against Fuangas, and he kind of pulled some shit out of his ass because I thought that he was going to get stopped, but turns out this Joe Paul Fungus dude, I've seen him before. He's very flaky, and he just happened to flake, and now Riberio's on Contender Series. But when you look at Bruno Lopez, he if you go to like his first pro fight or second pro fight, he actually knocked out Gregory Rodriguez. Hell of a fight. It was like only a minute long. Both dudes dropped each other, and Lopez was the first person to chin Gregory Rodriguez, and that's a good performance. But I will say with Lopez, my only concern here with him is that he's going to probably be the smaller guy. He did used to fight at welterweight before, has fought at middleweight, and now he's moving up to 205. But it's so obvious that he's the much, much, much better fighter. I can't help but think he can beat him wherever it goes. We see Lopez, he goes for takedowns in a lot of fights. So if he wants to go the takedown routes, he can probably get it. I think he could get a submission here in this matchup. It's probably going to come down to how do you think he's going to win? Because he's minus 550 on the money line, which I honestly think is pretty generous. But he's going to get probably the first round finish. So if we get a good number on the under 1.5, I'm probably going to bet that. And maybe Lopez by submission if it's a juicy number because he does like to attack submissions when he's on top.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. His striking is super educated. He manages range really well. The only thing I don't love is that the height difference, not the size difference, but the height difference is significant. That dude has a great body for MMA. He's 6'3". He's long, he's rangy, but you're right. He gets chinned. What's funny is I turned on that tape and then I was like, which one is the guy supposed to be on Contender? Because, usually like when they're getting in, they're like the guy dominating and then they're going to go to Contender Series. He was getting smashed. He was getting destroyed. And then they kind of looked similar and I'm like, fuck, who won that fight? Is this the first guy coming into Contender off a loss? Like that would be crazy. Yeah, not much more to say. I think you're picking a method there. I think he probably just KOs him, but yeah. So that's a free square there.
Yeah, it looks like you're going with all the chalk on this card. What could go wrong?
It didn't go wrong on Paris, did it, motherfucker?
No, it did not. So maybe it doesn't go wrong on Vegas on Tuesday.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. That was short and sweet. It was 30 minutes. Quick one.
Yes, sir. Can't wait for next week. Next week's card's going to be fucking amazing. We got Casey Tanner versus Gene. That's an amazing fight next
Oh
week.
shit! I might go see Casey tomorrow. We'll go see how he's doing. I'll give you guys an update.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.